Hello there, I am Rafael di Furia, back at it again on another Friday night here in the heart of Rovigo, Italy, this small little city where I happen to live. And this week, I wanted to talk a little bit more about what things are like, what's going on right now, what is the situation that we're living with, what is the update since last week, because there have been some changes that have come up, and why the hell am I still wearing a mask? Anyway, before we get too much further into the video, if you'd like to see more content like this about moving to Italy, Italian dual citizenship, and living life abroad, please be sure to subscribe with that notification bell turned on. And if you could also give this video a like and share it with your friends, that would be greatly appreciated. And a huge thank you to those of you who are helping to make videos like this possible through Patreon. Anyway, so what's going on? Why am I still wearing a mask is something I'll get into in a second, but stores are opening back up. But not every store, not every restaurant. But you can start to see, I don't know if you'll be able to see it so clearly, the selection of what's available in the stores. Masks are something that you're starting to see just about everywhere. Not everywhere, but even the other day when we had our Tuesday weekly market, that just started back up again. Well, at least more stores have returned. There have been some stores that have continued to operate on Tuesdays, but anyway, that's a separate story. A lot of the sellers there were offering masks. All different kinds of prices, nicer masks, cheaper masks, this and that, for all different kinds of prices, anywhere from 8 for 12 or 1 for 12. Just depends on the mask and who's selling it. But just as another little example of places that aren't opening up, just as I've mentioned on my Instagram, this piazza back here, which I also showed last week, today actually in the paper, Thursday, I know it's supposed to be Friday, but I'm recording Thursday. One of the owners was quoted in the paper for saying that they're actually afraid to reopen. I don't remember all of the details from the article, but just that one line alone tells so much. This is actually very interesting. I'm actually seeing something. This is very interesting. If you saw my post from Instagram also about the mannequins with masks, this is the same store back here. So it looks like they may have taken the masks off their mannequins. Honestly, it's something that I found a bit disturbing, that we are living in a world where that was becoming the new fashion statement. It is becoming so normalized that even they're being sold as fashion accessories. But of course, because it is Italy, it has gone in that direction. You can see masks of all kinds that are being sold with all different sorts of purposes. They have some of the FFP2 masks. They still have even just in a store like this, just in the window, masks that they're selling 10 euros each. And there's all different kinds of styles, different materials, and there's different, even at the pharmacies you can buy them, simple ones, more expensive ones. Just the world that we're living in now, where these masks are so, I find it ridiculous. Ridiculous that we've gotten to a point where it has become necessary. Ridiculous, so ridiculous it's a sad thing. It's not that it's something to be made fun of, but I don't know if you can see, probably a lot of these stores are opening back up. I'm going to take a somewhat similar path to try and show a little bit of some of the places that I showed last week that were closed that are now back open. And yes, I switched over to a cloth mask because with the FFP2 I just was having an impossible time breathing. Even with this I'm having a difficult time. But going around, here's, you can see, here's what's also become almost a common sight, but more inside of places rather than outside, where you have the sanitizing gel outside so that people who are coming into the store can, even if you have gloves on. But why is it that I'm still wearing a mask even though I'm out and about on the town, even if I'm not so close to people? It's because I don't want to get my bank account emptied out. It's as simple as that. The situation is that if you do not have a mask, you can get fined, and the fines start at about 500 euros. So I would rather be a bit uncomfortable in one aspect than be uncomfortable in another aspect. In the last video, we saw this area where there was nobody sitting out and sitting around, but now you are seeing some people. But the funny thing that I've noticed is that in this new stage of lockdown, I almost feel like I've been seeing fewer people than I was seeing earlier this month when things really opened up for the first time in months. I mean, it kind of actually makes sense because we were all like trapped. The first opportunity to get out, we got out. But also, I think it's quieted down a little bit because people were seeing that. A lot of people were going out. And there are still people who are fearful of the situation. Like I was mentioning before about the owners of that pizza shop. And even yesterday there was a local news report done here, a video news report. And one of the shop owners was saying that their business has not returned to normal, and they think it's because that people are still afraid to go out and that they're not wanting to go out. They're not wanting to take that chance of exposure. Thankfully though, here, like I mentioned last time also, that our numbers here are doing a lot better than other parts of the country, and we haven't really been seeing the increase of numbers, but we're still getting used to this new way of living for right now. How long this will go on, who knows? If anybody tells you that they have a good idea of what's happening, they're talking out of their rear end at this point, to be perfectly frank. But one of the other things that I've been seeing going on here is that there are a lot of shops that are doing ridiculous sales. I saw one store that even had 80% off, then they changed it to 50%, now it's 20%. But even if you go, you can see you have to keep a distance of 1 meter per person, like from one person to the other. And I believe there's a shop over here someplace where they even have limited not only the amount of people in the store, but they're saying they're offering as an extra service. Could have even been this one right here where I just was. But they're offering the service of you call ahead and they'll be your personal shoppers for you. They'll bring it to your home. Because there are store owners that they need to operate, but they also don't want to operate at this point. I know I've been saying this a lot recently, but I'm the type of person who does enjoy staying at home. But I'm at that point where I just really don't want to be home because it's just been so much time. But at the same time, going out has become such an unpleasant experience that walking out of the house just feels like a chore because I can't breathe. I can't get fresh air. And that's part of the point of going out and getting exercise, is so that you can fill your lungs and get that good oxygen. But the only place I'm able to really do that is if I'm standing at my window. How's that good? So thankfully the weather has been getting a bit better, and it's actually pretty warm today. It's about just a little bit over what I like. So I could keep my windows open in my apartment, which I have been doing. But going out, are there people that you see that are exercising? Yes. Are you seeing people that are going out with their face uncovered? Not really. At the very minimum, you will see people who maybe have their mask under their chin, or at least under their nose. I would say you see more under their nose than anything, but let's guess around 85–90% of people are wearing the mask around their full face. And as time goes on, I've been seeing more and more people that are not wearing it too low. So it seems as though that not all efforts are lost on trying to educate the population on proper usage of these masks, because if we're not all properly using them, then the whole point kind of gets ruined. So has the reopening of business helped the situation? I mean, it's from a mental state of being somebody here physically that I can go to a store if I need to go to a store, or if I would like to go, then okay, yeah, that's helped. But if we're talking about nationally on a financial level, are we seeing that help? Are we seeing a rebound from the situation? That's something I haven't seen yet, because I know a lot of businesses are still not doing well. And like I was saying before about the shops that are offering these crazy sales, is that they just have to get rid of stock because they pretty much missed a whole season's worth of clothing to sell. So what they would be selling earlier in the year would not be proper for the springtime and moving forward into the summer. It'd be too heavy. It's just what's the point? So you can't really sit on just a bunch of clothing that's unsellable. What's the point in that? Restaurants do seem to be doing better. They haven't reached to where they were before. I have heard here in Rovigo that nightlife has somewhat resumed. It's not totally back to normal, but people are going out. They're going to get the aperitivo. They're going to get a drink. They're going to have a decent time out. Actually, I'm just about to walk right here, right now, and you might be able to see behind me a little bit, there are people who are out and about sitting and just enjoying the afternoon, which people have not been able to do. This has become a new thing that we're able to do this again. People are excited to be able to get out and to see their friends. We're still not really allowed to do interregional travel, but I've heard between some regions you can, from Veneto to Emilia Romagna, if you're going to visit friends, not if you're going to do shopping, is something that I have heard is allowed, kind of. I've been toying with the idea of leaving Rovigo to go to Venice for an afternoon, because I've been just really wanting to since January. I just hadn't had the time, and right as I was having the time to be able to do this was right when this all kicked up, so I missed out on that opportunity. And I would love to get there before the country opens up again, before all the tourists come flocking back, because that's the only thing that I'm not crazy about Venice, is that there are so many tourists, and it just feels like an outdoor walking shopping mall rather than like an Italian village on the water. And I still haven't seen Burano, I haven't seen all of the other islands, but slowly as time goes on, I'm sure I'll see it all. But if we're talking about the reopening of the country, honestly, I'm a little worried about that, because it seems as though travel is what brought it here. So why wouldn't it come back through travel? But of course, I'm not an expert on the subject of this whole situation, just somebody who's living through it. So who knows, maybe it could be fine. But it does kind of feel a little soon. But in regards to the dates of when that's happening, I've heard that it's going to be the 3rd of this next month, June. But I've also heard that that's not true. I've heard it's only for some countries, not all countries. It's always, every article I read says the other article is saying something wrong. So I'm getting to that point where even going to read the news is difficult, and I'm not, and if I can't see it with my own eyes, if I'm not personally experiencing it, how can I believe what's going on? So for me, at this point, if I don't see the situation with my own eyes, how can I believe it? If the country opens up, we'll just have to deal with it as it comes. If it stays closed, we'll have to deal with that situation too, because again, the country's kind of between a rock and a hard place. Italy needs tourism, but it's also something that could potentially suffocate it, depending on how things would go. 6 to 1, half a dozen of the other, and old other sayings like that. This is what life has kind of turned into in the current situation. That yes, things are open. The situation, as far as numbers, seems to be improving. And yes, there are more people going out. So it does feel like we're going in the right direction. And I would love to be seeing us continue in that right direction until finally we have the day where these become optional. Because I am so fed up of having to wear a mask. Even just going to a store. I've come to realize, because my Italian's not the best, yes, I can communicate, and if you've been watching my videos, you may have seen me using a little bit of my Italian, but I've realized, because of my limited ability currently with the language, that I rely upon a lot of hand gestures, which I use hand gestures anyway. That's just who I am. I've been doing it since I was little. But I also use a lot of facial expressions, and also to not be able to read another person's facial expressions, it takes away a little bit of the human experience, and it's frustrating to not be able to easily read what somebody's saying through their face. Because yes, I'll understand the words that they're saying, but sometimes the tone isn't enough to be able to determine what the meaning is behind certain words. Anyway, this is a whole different discussion for a whole different day. But I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it's been informative on what's life currently like here where I live in this small Italian city. And if you would like to see more content like this about moving to Italy, Italian dual citizenship, and living life abroad, please be sure to subscribe with that notification bell turned on. And if you could also give this video a like and share it with your friends, that would be greatly appreciated, because it does help out the channel. And of course, I'm losing my breath here. Thank you to those of you who are helping to make these videos possible through Patreon, those of you who are helping me to be able to continue with these videos. I can't even explain how grateful I am to you guys. So thank you so very, very much. Of course, as always, I'm Rafael de Furia, and I will see you all next time. Later.